It's a cold morning. Iron gates, stone walls, security cameras. And outside those gates, two people in a beat-up sedan with bald tires and a dented bumper. They've been standing there for over an hour. The woman is wearing her best dress. The man is trying to look calm, but his hands keep fidgeting. Inside the house, that's me. I'm watching them on the security monitor. And I'm not nervous. I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm ready. Because 3 years ago those two people looked at a text message from their 24-year-old son. A text that said, "Mom, Dad, please. I'm about to be homeless," and they blocked his number. That son was me. And today, I'm going to walk down to that gate. I'm going to stand on the inside of those iron bars. And I'm going to slide a $5 bill through the gap and tell them exactly what it means. Stay with me. Because this story, from sleeping in a 2005 Honda with a broken heater to standing at the gates of my own estate, is one you will never forget. If you have ever been abandoned by the very people who were supposed to catch you when you fell, if you've ever been made to feel like a burden by blood, then this video is for you. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Tell me, has family ever let you down when you needed them most? Because the comments section on this one is going to be electric. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Let's go back to the silence. There is a specific kind of silence that kills you from the inside. It's not the quiet of an empty room. It's not the peace of a sleeping house at midnight. It's the silence of a phone that won't ring, especially when you are desperate. It is the digital void where a voice should be. It is the sound of being erased. 3 years ago, I was at the absolute lowest point of my life. I wasn't just struggling. I was drowning. The company I worked for had announced a sudden corporate restructuring, the kind where men in suits make decisions in glass towers and hundreds of people below them spend their Tuesday afternoon packing their desks into cardboard bins while security guards watch. I was 24 years old. I had no savings, no safety net, nothing. My landlord, a stern man who smelled permanently of cigar smoke and impatience, had already left a note under my door. 48 hours. Pair, get out. He wasn't cruel. He was just a man who had learned that sympathy doesn't pay mortgages. So I did what any person does when the floor drops out. I called my parents, my mother and father, the people who brought me into this world, the people who taught me to walk, to read, to say please and thank you, the people who used to tell me at Thanksgiving tables and Christmas dinners, that family is forever. I called them 14 times in 1 hour. The first 3 times? Voicemail. Their cheerful recorded voices, "Hi, you've reached the Millers. Leave a message." That greeting. That happy, normal, cheerful greeting mocked me. I was sitting in my car in the parking lot of a convenience store, shaking, and their voicemail sounded like a vacation postcard. The 4th call, it rang once. Just once. A single half-hearted trill. And then the line just died. Not a hang-up. Not a busy signal. It just went to that terrible digital silence. I texted. I typed out the words I never thought I'd have to type to my own parents. "Mom, Dad, please. I'm about to be homeless. Just $500 to keep the door locked. I'll pay you back with interest. I promise." I watched the 3 dots appear. The typing indicator. My heart jumped. They were reading it. They were going to respond. They were going to help. The dots disappeared. The blue bubble turned green. If you've ever sent a message to an iPhone user and watched it go from blue to green, you know what that means. You've been blocked. And the read receipt before it switched, I saw it. Read. They opened it. They saw my desperation. They saw my fear written in plain English. And they made a choice. They didn't say no. They didn't call back to say, "We can't help but we love you." They blocked me. The next time I tried to call, a robotic recording told me, "The number you are trying to reach is not accepting calls at this time." I sat in that parking lot for a long time. Then I drove to a Walmart lot because it was the kind of place no one asks questions. I locked the car doors. I pulled a blanket over myself, one that smelled faintly of dust and old storage. My breath was visible in the cold air. The heater in my 2005 Honda Civic was broken. Outside, a truck was backing up, beeping rhythmically into the night. Beep, beep, beep. And I lay there in the back seat, 24 years old, a college education on my resume and nothing in my pockets, and I asked myself one question. How do the people who taught me to walk, watch me crawl, and feel absolutely nothing? I didn't have an answer that night. But I was going to spend the next 3 years building one. The morning the eviction officially began started with a knock. Not a polite knock. Not the knock of a neighbor checking in. It was the pounding of someone who had decided, before they even raised their fist, that their time was more important than your dignity. I opened the door. "Mr. Henderson." My landlord. Clipboard in one hand, official eviction notice in the other. He didn't look at me. He looked at the paper. 48 hours, Mark, he said. That's the law. After that, I changed the locks. I have interviews, I said. My voice was steady. I needed it to be steady. I just need a week. 1 week. He turned and walked away. His dress shoes clicked on the hallway floor. Click, click, click. The sound of my life being measured out in footsteps. I packed everything I could fit into 2 duffel bags. My bed had to stay. The kitchen table. 3 years of furniture and small accumulated comforts, left for the next tenant or the trash. I took the family photos off the wall. I thought maybe they would remind me that I was loved somewhere. I was wrong. I drove to my parents' house. It was a modest suburban home, the kind with a manicured lawn and a mailbox that matched the house trim, the kind of neighborhood where everything looks permanent and safe from the outside. I sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes. I rehearsed what I would say. I'm in a tough spot. I need a loan. I'll work it off. I practiced the tone. Not desperate. Confident. I didn't want them to panic. I wanted them to see a son who had hit a bump, not a burden who had arrived to complicate their retirement. I walked to the door. Rang the bell. Heard the chime echo inside. Footsteps. The door opened. My mother stood there. She was holding a glass of wine. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She looked at me the way you look at a salesman who shows up on a Saturday. Surprise quickly followed by calculation. Mark, she said. No hug. She stepped back, blocking the doorway with her body, physically closing the gap. What are you doing here? We're about to leave for lunch. I lost my job, Mom. My voice cracked slightly. I hated that it cracked. The apartment, I'm going to be out in 2 days. I need $500. Just to bridge the gap. My father appeared behind her. Golf shirt. Sunday afternoon leisure. He looked at me, then at my duffel bags visible in the back of my car, and his expression didn't shift to concern. It shifted to inconvenience. Mark, he said, sighing the way you sigh when the remote stops working. We're retired. We live on a fixed income. We can't just pull money out of thin air. I'll pay it back. I kept my voice level. I have 3 interviews this week. I just need to keep the lights on. Everyone says that, my mother said. She took a sip of her wine. Just a small, casual sip. Like this was a normal Tuesday afternoon chat on the porch. You need to stand on your own 2 feet, Mark. If we bail you out now, you'll never learn. It's tough love. Tough love. She said tough love. I looked at her. Standing in the doorway of a house that was paid off. Holding a glass of wine at 2 p.m. Using language from a parenting seminar to explain why she wouldn't loan her son $500 to avoid sleeping outside. It's not about learning, I said. It's about shelter. It's about not sleeping in my car. We have to go, my father said. He closed the door. Not slowly. Not reluctantly. He shut it. I heard the lock click. I stood on the porch. I rang the bell again. Silence. I called their cells. Voicemail. I texted. Read receipt. Then the green bubble. Then the recording. I drove away. I didn't cry then. I was too shocked for tears. Shock is what happens when reality is so far outside what you believe possible that your brain simply refuses to process it immediately. The grief came later. In the Walmart parking lot. When the temperature dropped and the blanket wasn't enough and the trucks kept beeping and I realized something terrible. The parents I thought I had, the ones who taught me about family being forever, they were characters I had created. Stories I had told myself. A mythology built on holiday dinners and birthday cards. The real people were the ones who just shut the door. And the story I had been telling myself, it was over. For 2 years I lived in the shadows. I became a ghost in my own city. Not invisible out of shame, invisible out of strategy. I was rebuilding myself from zero, and I didn't have the luxury of being seen while I did it. I worked 3 jobs. Let me say that again so it lands properly. 3 jobs. I cleaned offices downtown, corporate towers full of people who made in an hour what I made in a month. I delivered food in every kind of weather. Rain so heavy the windshield wipers couldn't keep up, cold that made the steering wheel feel like ice through my gloves, summer heat that turned my delivery car into a slow cooker. And overnight security, sitting in a booth from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. watching monitors that mostly showed empty hallways. I saved every dollar. Not most dollars. Every dollar. Rice and beans. Generic everything. No new clothes. No streaming subscriptions. No coffee shops. Every dollar that didn't go to gas, food, and a cheap rented room went into an account I didn't touch. I stopped looking at my parents' social media. But sometimes, when I was weak, when the exhaustion was bone deep and the self-discipline slipped, I looked. I remember one night specifically. 3 a.m. Parked outside the office building where my overnight shift would start in 45 minutes. Cold sandwich in my lap. Phone in my hand. My mother's profile. A beach photo. Mexico. My mother in a sun hat, drink in hand, ocean behind her. The caption, living our best life. So blessed. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I put my phone down, finished my sandwich and went to work. The cleaning job taught me humility, but not the kind they sell on motivational posters. Real humility. The kind where you understand that your worth is not determined by what floor you're cleaning or whose trash you're emptying. I mopped floors that executives walked across without ever looking down. I was infrastructure. I was part of the building like the electrical system. And that was fine. Because being invisible meant I could watch. I watched how the successful people in those offices moved. How they spoke. The books and reports they left on their desks. I read the titles. I memorized the names of the authors. Later, in the security booth, I would find those books on my phone and read them through the night. The food delivery job was the one that nearly broke me. One night, and this one still sits with me, I picked up a $200 order. Drove to the address. Pulled up and recognized the house. My aunt's house. My mother's sister. My cousin's car was in the driveway. Through the lit window, I could see people moving around a dinner table. I sat in my delivery car in the dark. I was wearing my delivery uniform, a fluorescent jacket and a branded bag. I was 30 seconds from ringing their bell and handing my own family their dinner. Anonymously. Because they wouldn't recognize me behind the uniform in the years. I left the food at the door. I drove away. I couldn't bear the pity. Or worse, the discomfort on their faces. The awkward silence of recognizing what their silence had allowed to happen to me. The overnight security job, that was where I became someone new. 12 hours of silence in a booth. Nothing but monitors and my own thoughts. And instead of letting those thoughts spiral into bitterness, I made a decision. I stopped narrating myself as a victim. I started narrating myself as a student. Finance books. Real estate fundamentals. Tax law for beginners. Investment psychology. Behavioral economics. I studied the way people with money thought differently from people without it. I learned about compound interest, about blind trusts, about the difference between income and wealth. I made a vow in that booth, somewhere around 4 a.m. on a Tuesday, with nothing but the hum of the building and the glow of the monitor screens around me. I will never be at the mercy of someone else's generosity again. I will never beg. I will never plead. I will never watch 3 little dots appear and then disappear. I will build something so solid that no one, not a landlord, not a parent, not a bank, can take it away. I saved until I had $10,000. And then the rain came. It was a Tuesday. It was raining. Not a gentle rain. The kind that makes you wonder if someone, somewhere, is very angry. The kind that turns gutters into rivers and turns your windshield into a smear no matter how fast the wipers go. I was at a gas station. My car needed fuel I could barely afford. I was buying a bottle of water and a sandwich, the cheap kind, prepackaged, the kind that tastes like the plastic it comes in. My back hurt from the security chair. I'd worked a double the night before. The man ahead of me in line was buying lottery tickets. A whole stack of them. He was laughing with the clerk, that easy laugh of someone who has enough disposable income that $20 in lottery tickets is entertainment rather than desperation. Someone's gotta win, he said. Might as well be me. He walked out. He had already lost, he just didn't know it yet. I stepped up to the register. $4 in my pocket. 2 for the water. 2 for the sandwich. I looked at the lottery display. I knew the statistics. I had spent enough nights in that security booth reading about probability and risk. The lottery is, mathematically speaking, a tax on people who don't understand statistics. The odds of winning a major jackpot are roughly 1 in 292 million. You are more likely to be struck by lightning twice on the same day. I knew all of this, and yet, I put the sandwich back. I bought a $2 quick pick lottery ticket. Didn't choose the numbers. Let the machine choose. Shoved it in my pocket without even looking at it. Drove to my shift. The ticket sat on my dashboard for 3 days collecting dust. It was so unimportant that I forgot it existed. Just a little rectangle of paper. A receipt for a small, embarrassing moment of magical thinking. 3 days later, I was at the grocery store, buying generic pasta. I was at the self-checkout kiosk, scanning my pasta, when I noticed the ticket on the keyring I'd clipped it to. Out of idle habit, the way you check your phone even when you're not expecting anything, I slid it under the barcode scanner. The machine didn't beep. It screamed. The screen flashed red. See assistance. The kid working the checkout area nearby, young headphones around his neck, already bored, looked over. Error? I looked at the screen. The numbers were there. My numbers. The drawn numbers. Side by side. They matched. All of them. The Powerball number. The mega number. Every last digit. My hands weren't shaking yet. My brain hadn't processed it. I was running on pure automatic pilot. I scanned it again. See assistance. The clerk took the ticket. He walked it to his register. He scanned it slowly. And then he went very still. He looked at the ticket. He looked at me, security uniform, dark circles under my eyes, the posture of someone who has been carrying something heavy for a very long time. He looked back at the ticket. Sir, he whispered. Like we were in a library. Like the sound might disturb something. You need to go to the lottery headquarters. Now. I hadn't won a few $1,000s. I hadn't won a few $100,000. I had won $45 million. I didn't cheer. I didn't throw my hands up. I didn't do any of the things you imagine you'd do in that moment. I felt sick. I felt the way you feel at the top of a roller coaster. That suspended, nauseating second before the drop when your body doesn't know if it's thrilled or terrified and decides it's both. I took the ticket back. I folded it carefully. I put it in my shoe. Against the sole of my foot, where I could feel it with every step. I walked out of the store. I sat in my car. My hands found the steering wheel. I gripped it, and then I cried. Not because I was happy. I cried because for the first time in 3 years, for the first time since a landlord knocked on my door and a door was shut in my face and a phone went green, I was going to be safe. Not rich. Safe. Safe is something different. Safe is something people who've never been truly unsafe don't fully understand. Safe is not having to calculate whether you can afford to run the heater. Safe is not eating the cheap sandwich when you need real food. Safe is sleeping through the night without wondering what tomorrow dismantles. I was finally going to be safe. Here is what a lot of lottery winners do wrong, and I will tell you this because I had spent enough nights in that security booth reading about their stories. They announce it. They post the big cardboard check photo. They buy the Ferrari before the ink dries on the claim form. They call their friends, their family, their exes, their childhood enemies. They become a spectacle. And then they become a target. And then, within a few years, the money is gone and the relationships are poisoned and the lawyers are circling. I wasn't going to do any of that. I called a lawyer. Not a lawyer I knew. I didn't know any lawyers. I found one through a research process that took me 2 weeks of careful vetting. A firm that specialized in financial privacy. I claimed the prize through a blind trust. My name wouldn't appear in any public record. I kept working. For an entire year after winning $45 million, I kept working. I kept sitting in that security booth. I kept cleaning offices. I kept delivering food. Not because I had to. Because I wasn't ready to stop being the person who had survived all of this. I needed to carry him with me into the new life. I needed to make sure the money built on me, not the other way around. During that year I built slowly. Strategically. I found the estate through a real estate trust. A property in the hills outside the city. Stone walls. A large, heavy black gate at the entrance. High-resolution security cameras. Not to look impressive, to be impenetrable. I had spent enough time on the wrong side of doors to design a home that no one could close on me again. I furnished it simply. Warm things. Good things. A kitchen that smelled of real coffee and actual food. Soft blankets. Bookshelves. A fire pit in the garden. The kind of home that feels like safety rather than status. I started a logistics company. Not a flashy tech startup. A real, operational business that hired veterans, people with criminal records, people who had been told by the traditional job market that their past made them unemployable. I gave second chances because I knew what it cost when second chances weren't given. I funded homeless shelters anonymously. I paid off medical debt for strangers. There are organizations that buy medical debt at pennies on the dollar and forgive it. I found them. I wrote the checks. Under the trust name. Not mine. I didn't want gratitude. I wanted balance. I wanted the universe to know that I had been on the ground and that I had not forgotten it. And I was genuinely, quietly happy. But here's the thing about secrets. They're patient. They wait. And eventually, something small, something almost nothing, cracks the shell. My cousin. The one cousin I still had contact with. The one who had, to his credit, occasionally checked in during the dark years with a text and no expectations. He didn't know about the lottery. He didn't know about the estate. All he knew was that I seemed to be doing better. He mentioned it to my aunt. Casually. Mark is doing very well for himself. My aunt mentioned it to my mother. And in my family's language, doing very well translates to one thing. Target. Last week. A Thursday morning. Early. The sun was just coming over the hills and painting everything that particular shade of gold that makes you remember why being alive is not always terrible. I was in my kitchen. Making coffee. The real kind, ground beans, French press, the ritual of it. I had learned that mornings are sacred. The quiet before the world starts asking things of you. The intercom buzzed. That sound. Sharp and electronic. Cutting right through the quiet. I set down the press. I walked to the security panel. I looked at the monitor. My heart did something strange. Not quite a skip. More like a stumble. The physical reaction of a body that has filed away a threat and recognizes it years later. There they were. My mother was wearing her best dress. The floral one she reserves for church and situations where she needs to make an impression. Too bright for a weekday morning. Too deliberate to be casual. My father was leaning against their car. It was the same sedan, but it looked different now. A dent in the front bumper. Tires that were worn down to bare minimums. The whole car had the look of something being run into the ground because there was no money for maintenance. And their faces. The arrogance was gone. In its place, hunger. That specific kind of hungry that isn't about food. I stood at the monitor for a moment. Just watching them. They had been there for over an hour, according to the timestamp. They had stood outside my gate in the morning chill and waited. I could have walked away. I could have gone back to my coffee and let them stand there until they gave up. But I needed to hear it. I pressed the intercom button. Who is it? My voice was calm. Steady. The voice of someone who has had 3 years to prepare for exactly this moment. Mark? Marky, is that you? My mother's voice. Drenched in a particular kind of sweetness. The artificial kind, the kind that doesn't occur naturally. The voice she used when she wanted something from someone. It's Mom. We've been searching everywhere for you. We were so worried. Worried. I looked at the camera timestamp again. Worried. I said. You were so worried that you blocked my number when I was sleeping in a 2005 Honda with a broken heater? Silence on the intercom. Muffled whispering. Then my father's voice, moving closer to the camera as if proximity could help his case. We didn't block you, honey. It was a technical glitch. Look, Mark, things have been hard. The house is in foreclosure. Medical bills are piling up. We heard you had, well, a streak of luck. I'm not lucky, I said. I'm working. Whatever it is, my mother said. We need help. We're family, Mark. You can't let your own parents lose their home while you live in a palace. It's not Christian. It's not right. I looked around at my kitchen. The stone counters. The French press. The warm light. Palace. To them it was a vault. A storage facility for money they believed they were owed. Why are you here? I asked. Really? Pause. Then my father, dropping the pretense because pretense takes energy he clearly didn't have left. We need $50,000. Just to clear the arrears on the house. We'll pay you back. You couldn't pay back $500? I said. What makes you believe I'd trust you with $50,000? Because we're your parents, my mother cried. Her voice broke. Real tears? Possibly. But I watched her eyes on the camera, scanning the property behind me. Calculating. Assessing. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the assets. You gave me life, I said. But you tried to take it back when I needed shelter. I walked down to the gate. I didn't run. I didn't rush. I walked the way you walk when you're not afraid of anything anymore. Steady, unhurried, absolutely sure of every step. I stood behind the iron bars. Cold, black, immovable. They were on the outside. I was on the inside. And the physical geometry of that moment, them out there, me in here, matched something emotional so precisely that it almost felt staged. My mother began to cry harder when she saw me. I studied her face. I looked for something genuine in it. Something that went beyond the performance of grief. I wanted to find my mother in there, the real one, the one I had carried in my memory through years of cold nights and empty parking lots. But her eyes kept moving. Behind me. Past me. Scanning. She wasn't looking at her son. She was looking at what her son was standing in front of. Luck? I said. No. I had 1 second of luck when I bought a $2 ticket. Everything else was sweat, blood, 3 jobs, and the moment I accepted that I no longer had parents. So let me ask you one more time. Why are you here? We made a mistake, Mark, my father yelled. His face had gone red. He kicked the tire of their car, the same gesture I noticed of a man who has spent his life kicking things when they don't go his way. Everyone makes mistakes. You're holding a grudge. You're being selfish. A mistake, I said, is forgetting to buy milk. Blocking your child when he is about to be homeless. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. I reached into my pocket. I had put it there before I came down. Just one bill folded neatly. I had known this moment would arrive. I had known when I first heard their voices on the intercom exactly what I was going to do. I pulled out a $5 bill. I unfolded it slowly, smoothed it against the bar of the gate, and then I pushed it through the gap. It fluttered to the ground at my mother's feet. She looked at it the way you look at something you don't understand. Like it might be a mistake. Like there was something else coming behind it. "What is this?" she asked. "It's more than you gave me," I said, "when I needed $500. Consider it a refund for the childhood I thought was happy. Now, take that $5, drive to the gas station and buy yourself some dignity. Because you are not getting a single cent of my so-called luck." My father's face went through several colors before settling on fury. "You think you're better than us?" he spat. "You're just a lucky beggar." "I was a beggar," I said. My voice was quiet. Quiet is always more powerful than shouting. But I stopped begging. "You're still begging. You ungrateful brat." My father swung his fist at the gate. The metal rang out, clang, like a bell announcing the end of a round. It didn't move. It didn't even vibrate. I looked at the man who had once been my hero. And I felt, genuinely and completely, nothing but pity. He was smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Existentially. He was a man who had spent his retirement drinking wine and playing golf and congratulating himself on his comfortable life. And now that the scaffolding of that life was falling away, he had nothing to fall back on. Not savings apparently. Not humility. Not even a relationship with his own son. Just this gate. I raised my radio. "Mr. Henderson." Yes, I had hired a security chief named Mr. Henderson. The irony was not lost on me. The name of the man who had evicted me now belonged to the man who protected me. The universe has a sense of humor. "Please escort these strangers off the property. If they return, contact the police for trespassing." 2 guards materialized from the side of the house. Large, professional, utterly silent. They moved with the economy of people who have done this before. "Sir. Ma'am. You need to leave." "You can't touch us," my father screamed. He swung at the nearer guard, a wild, desperate swing. The guard caught his wrist. Twisted it, gently but firmly, just enough to make my father yelp and step back. My mother was crying now. Properly crying. She reached down and picked up the $5 bill. She clutched it. She looked at me, one last look over the shoulder of a departing army. "You'll regret this, Mark. When we're gone you'll have no one." "I have myself," I said. "That's enough." I turned my back on them. I walked back toward my house. Their voices followed me, my mother wailing, my father hurling words like stones. But with every step I took, the sounds got smaller. Farther away. Like a radio being turned down by an invisible hand. The gate closed behind them. Their car engine started. It coughed, turned over twice, then found its rhythm. Drove away. I stood in my driveway for a moment. The sun was fully up. It was warm on my face. The air smelled of pine trees and wet earth, the kind of clean smell that only exists in high places. It didn't smell of fear anymore. It smelled like mine. That night, I sat at the fire pit in my garden. The flames moved in that particular way fire has, never still, never repeating the same shape twice. I held my phone in my hands. I went to the archives of my contacts, buried deep under the M's. Mom, Dad, still there. I had never deleted them. Not because I held on to hope. Because I held on to evidence. Because sometimes you need to be able to show yourself the proof of what happened when memory starts to soften the edges. I pressed block. Then I pressed delete. They were gone. Not just from my phone. From my life. And here is the thing I want you to hear, the thing that took me 3 years to understand. Winning the lottery didn't make me rich. Winning the lottery bought me time. What made me rich, truly, lastingly rich in the way that doesn't disappear, was the night I stopped expecting them to love me. The moment I stopped auditing every memory of my childhood looking for evidence of whether I was wanted or not. The moment I understood that their failure was not a verdict on my worth. It was just a verdict on them. That was the fortune. I heard later, through my cousin, the one decent thread of family I chose to keep, that they lost the house. They're in an apartment now across town. My father works part-time at a hardware store. My mother volunteers at a charity shop. I don't know if they've learned anything. I genuinely don't know. And This is the part that would have once surprised me. I don't need to know. Their story stopped being mine to follow. I took a different path. I started a foundation. Not in the Miller name. In my name. The Mark Foundation. We provide bridge loans to people facing eviction. We provide legal aid to renters who can't fight back alone. We provide the thing I needed most on that worst night of my life, sitting in a parking lot in a car with a broken heater. Time. Just a little more time. Just enough to get back on your feet. Because sometimes that's all it takes. And sometimes the people who should give it to you won't. So someone else has to. I sit in my office now. The view from the window is all hills and sky and a long way down from where I used to be. I am safe. I am warm. I am fed. I think about that night in the Walmart parking lot. The shivering. The fear. The blanket that smelled of dust and a radio playing somewhere in the parking lot and the complete loneliness of being a person that nobody was coming for. Feels like another lifetime. Because it was another lifetime. I learned something in the gap between those two lives. Family isn't blood. Family is who answers the phone. Family is who opens the door. My parents didn't answer. They didn't open. So I built my own house. And I locked the door behind me. And for the first time in years, for the first time since I was young and didn't know yet that the world could be cold, I sleep through the night. No nightmares. No ringing phones. No three little dots that disappear. Just silence. The good kind. The kind that heals. If this story hit you somewhere real, if you've ever been at a gate on the wrong side of a door watching dots disappear and praying they'd come back, you're not alone. And you're not done. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you want more stories that remind you that karma, eventually, keeps its appointments. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. And in the comments, I want to hear from you. Has family ever turned their back when you needed them most? Did you come back from it? Tell me below. There's another story waiting in the next video. Click it now. It's going to hit just as hard. See you there.